Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel where here we talk about everything to do with personal finance and growing your money. My name is Lewis and today I'm going to be taking you through the spreadsheets that I use to keep track of my money. I know lots of people have already dropped in the comments and are looking to see what spreadsheets I use, so I thought I'd make today's video about going through and showing you how I use my spreadsheets to map out my money. And before we get stuck into the spreadsheets, I just thought it would be really important to point out that in my personal opinion, budgeting is really, really important, and it's one of the most important things that you can actually do in your life. And once you get yourself a good budget system set up, it's amazing how easy and how much stress it takes out of your life because all of your systems become automated. You know exactly where your money's going, you know what you're spending your money on, which allows you to spend your money without guilt. I don't know about you, but I remember before I used to budget to the levels that I do now. I remember I used to make purchases, and sometimes I used to feel really guilty about making those purchases, but I've put these systems in place to be able to remove that because I know where my money's going, when it's being spent, what it's being spent on, and it's really helped me be able to move forwards with my views and kind of feelings around money. And budgets can obviously take many, many forms. So the one I'm going to take you through is me mapping it out in Google Sheets, and it's got various tabs. But just because this is how I track my money doesn't mean this has to be how you track your money. I'm sure as we go through, you might be even more experienced in building budget spreadsheets than I am. And actually you might find a flaw or something you don't like in what I do with my sheet, but my sheet works for me and something completely different might be what works for you. It's about finding a system that is tailored to your personal requirements and what that you need to be able to track your money effectively. So yeah, be gentle with my spreadsheet when I pop it up on the screen, but let's do that now. Okay, so this is it. Welcome to my budget spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet I use to track everything for myself in terms of my finances, whether that be what's going out, what's coming in, what I'm investing, what I'm saving. All of it is in here. Also got a retirement plan as well. Before we get into the intricate details of how it works, I just wanted to summarize what we've got in here. So we've got my budget overview, and all these tabs do pretty much exactly what they say on the tin. Budget overview, this is the tab that pulls everything together from all the other tabs and gives me a snapshot of where I'm at. We've got my monthly budget tracker here, which can be used for tracking everything I spend each month. So in here, I input my income from my job and any side hustles, and also any bills, debt payments, things like that that I've got going at, all tracked in here. We've got my savings and investments tracker. So that tracks my emergency fund and how much money I've got in that and where I am in relation to where I would like to be. And then the two kind of investment lines that I've got going on, my pension, how much money I put into that, and also investments. So any extra money that I put into investments outside of what goes into my pension is tracked there. I have a pots tab. So I use this tab for any additional money that I have left at the end of the month. I put away, it doesn't go into my emergency fund. That is there for big unexpected expenses, whereas these things in here are more things I know that I'm going to have to pay for throughout the year, things like a car insurance or paying for Christmas. So this is where I put any money that I have left at the end of the month into these pots, and I have individual goals for all of them. And then probably the scariest tab is the tab at the end, which is my retirement plan tab. So this outlines the journey that I am hoping to go on to be able to retire early, and it's something I've mentioned that I'd like to do for me, and I've mentioned it in a few other videos that I've filmed, so do go back and check those out. And how to retire early and my journey to retiring early is going to form a really big part of this channel in the hope that I can pass on information and what I'm doing to you to help you be able to achieve the same if that's something that's important to you. But yeah, they're my tabs that I use for this spreadsheet. Now I'm going to go into each tab now and just explain a little bit more detail on how it works, but it's worth noting at the start of this video that this is just a copy kind of dummy spreadsheet that I've pulled through from previous budgets that I've done. If you want to see exactly the details of how I use this spreadsheet live to budget, make sure you go and check out one of my budgeting videos, because in there you'll see me input live numbers and numbers that I've got coming in for each month and going out for that specific video. So yeah, go and check out budgeting videos if you want to see this in full flow. But quick overview of each tab so you can get an understanding of how I do this. So budget overview, this pulls together, as mentioned, all of the information that I need to be able to see where I'm at with my money. It pulls all of my income and all of my expenses in off the monthly budget tracker tab into this front sheet. It pulls all of my savings and investments in, any other money that I've got left to allocate, which goes into the pots. all onto this spreadsheet, and it gives me an overview of where my money is going in terms of the different categories. So how much of my money am I spending on bills or debt payments? It also allows me to track where I'm at with my debt. So if I scroll down a little bit further for you here, you'll see I've got some lines here for my debt that I currently carry, and we currently carry. We were very lucky to be able to get married this year, but weddings are very expensive, so we're carrying a little bit of debt that we're paying off. So just here is how I track that. So here I've got the debt that I still need to pay, and also the debt that I've paid off so far. So as you can see, I'm actually over halfway through it, which is great, and you can see that in this pie chart then up here as well. And then it also pulls through the number I've got in my emergency fund, pension and investment totals. You'll have seen, obviously, it doesn't have anything input at the moment. And as I said, if you want to see the live numbers for where I'm at, go and check out one of my budgeting videos. But they all pull through here, and then it will give you a net worth at the bottom here of how much money I am worth in total if you bring together all my assets and all of my liabilities. So yeah, that's the overview of how the budget overview tab works. Next, we have the monthly budget tracker, and as you can see up the top here, I've copied this from October 2025, and here this summarizes my monthly incomings and outgoings, so I can keep track of where I am and if I'm on track to hit some of my goals. So you can see my income line up here in the top corner, and this pulls through from this box here. So that's made up of any money that I get from my salary, any money that I make from side hustles. It was a quiet month in September, coming through to October. I was very lucky and I was away on my honeymoon, but what that does mean is I wasn't earning any money from side hustles. And then at the bottom, any money that I had left over also pulls through. And then as you can see in all of these boxes, they're broken down into their individual categories that make up all the expenses that I have going out. So my bills, all the stuff I have joint with my wife and that we pay effectively to be able to run this house on a monthly basis, plus any other personal bills that I have, things like my phone and stuff like that. Any subscriptions I've got. Subscriptions is always a really popular one in any videos that content creators make, because people judge what other subscriptions people have. They're the subscriptions that I have at the moment. Actually, not, I've got BT Sport in there, not taken that out yet, but that will be one that will come in soon. And yeah, they're the subscriptions that I have. We've then got a food tab just down here, which shows the money that we spend on weekly shops, that I spend on weekly shops, and my other half has the same amount. And then any lunches that I get when I'm at work. I don't go into work into the office that often, so any money that I spend on lunches I just keep tracked in here. Car / travel insurances I've kind of bundled all together in this one here. Pets, any costs related to pets. You'll notice that cat insurance I put into this one because it's an insurance, but that is also a cost associated to us having a pet. And then I've got my debt payments down the bottom here, so things that I'm paying off at the moment. That relates back to that debt tab that you saw on the budget overview. Then my investments and savings tab, how much money is going into either my investment account or a savings app that I use that creates goals, or I create goals on, saves money automatically towards those goals. So it ties into my pots tab a little bit. That's on there. The only thing this does include is the money that I put into my pension, because that comes out before my net income, which is what comes into this spreadsheet. So that's separate. And then my personal allowance. So the money that I give myself each month is guilt-free, and then the individual things that gets spent on are all tracked in there. So yeah, that is kind of an overview of my monthly budget tracker and how it works. This next tab is my savings and investments tracker. So at the moment I've just created a dummy model for it for 2026, so there's no actual numbers in here, but this tracks the really important things behind how many assets I have, whether that be cash or whether that be in investments, and that also includes my pension. So this is the tab that does bring my pension into it. So the tab on the box, on the left-hand side, you can see is my emergency fund. So at the bottom, I put in a goal of where I want my emergency fund to be at the end of the year. And then in here, I put where I start the month on, how much I've added, if there was any interest paid, if it was a month where interest was paid. Some accounts pay yearly, some pay monthly. So I've got a box in here for that. And then what my cumulative total is, and then how much money I've got left to save to get towards that goal that I've set up there. Pension, so this is my salary sacrifice pension that comes with my not regular 9-to-5 job. I work in marketing at the moment. So in here at the start of the year, I would input how much money I've currently got in my pension, how much money I added in the month of January from out of my wages, and then the end total that's also in my pension account at the end of the month. This is something I choose to do. It's not something you necessarily have to choose to do. I choose to do this because I like to keep tabs on where my pension's at each month. That's not for everybody, so you don't have to do this. This is just something I do. So I put my end total in there, and then it takes those two numbers and that number, subtracts the difference, and that tells me how much growth I had that month on my pensions account. And then I put a goal in here that I want to be at for the end of the year. That will come into my retirement plan tab, which we'll get to in a bit. The number for the end of the year will go into there, and it will show me how I'm progressing towards that. And then we've got my investments tab, which is my extra investments. So that covers really any money that I put into investments, like into my Nutmeg account or into Trading 212 account I have, that goes in that isn't part of my pension investing. So this is additional investments that go into this here. But yeah, they're my three tables that I use for tracking savings and investments, and they pull through to that budget overview tab as well. I then have a pots tab. So this is a tab that I use basically with any leftover money that I have in my account at the end of the month. I use to go into these pots. So you'll have seen on my budget overview tab that I had a section that said left to allocate. So if I get to the end of the month and that money hasn't gone anywhere, I bring it into this section here and I'll allocate it to what I think is the most important thing that I need to be saving towards at the time. So this sits a bit different to my emergency fund. My emergency fund is there to pay for really big one-off expenses, or if I were to lose my job or anything like that, that's what that fund is there for. This is more to pay for stuff that I know that I'm going to have on a monthly or yearly basis that I'm going to need to spend money on. So things like saving money to be able to go to the dentist or any dentist appointments that I might need to cover, anything like that. Any expenses with my car, saving towards car insurances. Christmas comes up every year, and I'm sure you're like me, you get to October, November, and you think, how am I going to pay for Christmas? Well, I bought in a pot into this to be able to help me chip money in and put it into that pot throughout the year so I can help save towards that as well. Each pot's got its own goal. So obviously when I've got enough money in there and I've reached that goal, I can stop saving, and any money I have left, I can be putting towards some of the other pots where maybe I haven't reached the goals. So yeah, that's how my pots tab works. And then finally, my retirement tab. So this tab is probably the scariest one in this spreadsheet, if we're being honest. This tab outlines how I plan on getting to financial independence in a time frame that I'm aiming for. So I've mentioned in a couple of videos before, I'm really, really keen, and it's my number one goal with my financial journey, is to be able to retire early, take a step back from work and really go and enjoy life, travel, do more hobbies that I like doing. And I want to be able to do that as soon as possible. So I've mapped out a personal plan for myself. This is not necessarily a plan that is going to work for you or is applicable to your situation. This is just a plan that is applicable for where I'm at the moment and maps out my journey to get to where I need to get to. So my crossover point, my financial independent point, is being able to earn about £50,000 a year off of the investments that I have. If you come down here to this yellow bar, you'll actually see that if I'm assuming a 7% growth on my investments in this tab here, you'll see that somewhere around the year 2050, 2051, I, on current plan, will reach that £50,000 crossover point, which will then allow me to retire and cover all of my expenses without actually having to touch my lump sum total that I've saved for my later on retirement when I need to start drawing that down. So this is a plan, and I will go into this in more detail. You'll see in some of my budgeting videos and other videos when I talk about being able to retire early. It's going to form a big part of this channel. You'll see me go into this tab in a bit more detail, but yeah, it effectively maps out how much money I put into my pension each month, and that is literally mapped out for the next however many 30 years or whatever that is. That's how long it's mapped out for. Assume a growth rate on it, assume inflation on it, and then it gives me a projected total of the overall total I have in terms of money, and then also the money that I will earn off of it from growth on that savings and investments. So yeah, that's how I plan on retiring early. This is all the money that I need to save each month to be able to do it. Probably totally overwhelming tab, and it's one of those tabs I don't look at too often. I kind of have it mapped out in my brain how much I need to be saving. So there you have it. That is how my budget spreadsheet works and how I use my budget spreadsheet to track where I'm at financially and how I'm moving towards my financial goals. So hopefully you found that a little bit useful. As I say, if you want to see this spreadsheet in action, be sure to go and check out one of my budgeting videos, because there you'll see me inputting numbers into this spreadsheet actually for that specific month, how it works, how it churns out some of the things and some of the numbers that I then have, and the money that I'm saving towards my investments, how they're affected by what I'm spending. So yeah, if you want to see that, go and check out a budgeting video. But yeah, other than that, thank you for joining, and hopefully you found this interesting. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.